Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I don't really do videos like this, but I was going for a shot to try it. I have looked around on YouTube. I don't really see anything that fits what I'm trying to create, so I thought it would be a good idea for to reach out to audiences that are looking for this content, and B, also benefit from other comments or other suggestions and output for this content. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a storm guide. Right now I am a console player. I am sitting 1 win away from Diamond at the time of recording, and I still feel like, even though she's not really played, Storm is really good at the moment compared to Season 0, because right now we're sitting at Season 1, and I want to capitalize on that and have others capitalize. I feel like a lot of people still think she's kind of weak, or don't really understand her mechanics, besides maybe her ult, and are just kind of afraid to play her. So the object of this video is to teach everyone below me or at my level what I know to help them advance, but hopefully, like I was saying, to get some tips to advance myself, maybe into Grandmaster after I hit Diamond, which I hit Diamond last season, so I should hit it hopefully this season. So that's where I'm starting. So before I get into the weeds, I do want to go over the abilities quickly. I'm assuming everyone watching knows most of the abilities, but if not, it's a good reminder of what everything does and the strengths and the weaknesses of the abilities. So the first ability I'm looking at is Windblade. That is her primary attack. Essentially, it is just a projectile. It does 55 damage per round. As far as I'm aware, there's no critical or aka like headshot damage. There is a little bit of fall off, but from my understanding, I know with the update between Season 0 and Season 1, they have kind of messed with the fall off to make it a little bit stronger. And also the big thing with Windblade is it pierces. So what that means is if there's enemies behind the enemy you're shooting at, it's going to hit all of them. So it's important to line up shots all of the time if possible, or whenever you can, so that way you can maximize damage and also maximize your ult charge. The second ability I see people get wrong all the time when they are playing Storm, when I don't auto-lock her, is going to be Weather Control. Weather Control is kind of a... if anyone has ever played Overwatch, it's kind of similar to Lucio with his speed boost and his healing. There's essentially... It's different like phases, and you can switch it almost instantly. Her wind phase, which she starts at, or I guess tornado phase, is just for speed boost when you're not actually activating the other part of the ability. So it's a 15-meter radius, but that radius actually gets smaller around your team as you ascend into the air. So to cover the most ground, you want to make sure you're closer to the ground. And I'll talk about movement later, but that's just getting the max range, if you will. With the tornado boost, you can give yourself a 16% movement speed and 8% movement speed for your allies. When you press the button again, you can switch the boost to Thunder. Now, Thunder is primarily what you're going to use most of the game, but it's crucial to know when to swap at the right moments. But Thunder is essentially going to just to be the damage boost. It gives you 16% more damage, and any allies in your radius 8% more damage, which Sounds kind of small, but when everyone's firing in your radius, those numbers add up very quickly, especially if they're alting, etc. So, something to think about. Now, moving on to her third ability, which pairs with her weather control ability, it is the Goddess Boost. Essentially, it's just going to amplify and do more things that are provided from weather control that, depending on what phase you're in, either the tornado or the thunder are just going to do better. So starting back with the tornado, you're actually going to get significant boosts if you use the Goddess Boost. You'll get a 40% self-speed boost and a 20% speed boost for your allies. But not only that, anyone enemy-wise in your radius, that's why I was saying be careful with your radius, they're going to be slowed by 15%, which is pretty good. There's not a lot of slows in the game right now, so having crowd control is nice. Though going to the next part of the ability with the thunder is why I don't use it that much, and I'll explain. For the second part, if you use the Goddess Boost with your thunder phase, you will get a 30% damage boost. Your allies will get a 12% damage boost. And I don't know the numbers on this, but there are thunder strikes in your radius that will strike your enemies every 2 seconds. The reason I use the thunder form of this is because the damage number is, if I have to remember correctly, it's about 50 damage per tick, so that's 50 damage every 2 seconds if they're in your radius. And you can hit everyone, like the whole enemy team with this if you're close enough. Obviously you have to be careful for yourself and survive, but your ult charge is going to skyrocket numbers. You're going to hit double digits very quickly if you're in a team fight and you're hitting all of them with this thunder boost. But on top of that, and then long extended team fights, everyone tends to group up and cluster, especially with support alts, like defensive alts. So even if you're not killing them through a defensive alt, you're still doing damage, which may be healed, but you're still going to get yourself a lot of ult charge for another fight. The next ability I want to talk about is Bolt Rush. It's not as complicated as the previous two, straightforward, which is easy. It is essentially just a projectile you can send every 8 seconds. It has 80 damage, and my recommendation, preferably, is to use it as a finisher if you're in a duel with someone. So that way it's just going to give you that extra damage. Sometimes I feel even more a little bit more accurate with it, just to finish someone off. But if you can use it as an opener as well in a duel, I just prefer to use it almost every time I can off of cooldown, unless it's wasteful. Pretty much as an opener, but mainly as a closer. The next ability is actually an extra ability. If you do have a Thor on your team, you are able to get this ability. It's called Charged Gale. It's kind of similar to Bolt Rush. It's a projectile. You can use it every 15 seconds, and it does 55 damage. However, it bounces up to 3 different targets, so you can rack up some pretty good chip damage with that, bouncing between enemies that are clumped up. This is another one where I would just kind of suggest to use whenever you can, especially if they're grouped up, just to get that extra damage, so you can get extra ult charge as soon as you can. And last but not least, if you haven't used Storm, you definitely know what her ult is if you've played Rivals and you've played against a Storm. It is Omega Hurricane. Essentially, Storm will go into a little bit of a cast animation, and then she will become invulnerable and untargetable. She has about 5 seconds where she has a circle on the ground you can place. So you have free movement where you are invulnerable and untargetable for 5 seconds. It's pretty good. And then after that, you either press your ability to cast it, or after the 5 seconds, it'll just start casting for you. You have 5 seconds of a hurricane/tornado, whatever you want to call it, that provides a few things. Number one, some people may not know, but it does provide a shield for you, a 450 health shield. It's pretty fat. So Storm's 250 health. That's a lot of health to get rid of. It's very hard to take her down, nearly impossible in that. On top of that, it does 75 damage per tick, and it does 2 ticks per second. So that is 150 damage a second. If there are no defensive support alts, you're usually ripping through supports and DPSs in a few seconds. So it's really good to decide when to go in and when not to go in with it. But also you want to make sure you're not leaving yourself vulnerable as well. So my rule of thumb is usually to make sure a support defensive alt is down, or try to bait a support defensive alt. Like for example, Mantis, her alt will only last about 8 seconds. If I cast my alt, I have 5 seconds of free time to wait that 8 seconds out, and I will still be hitting her after her alt is done. So things to consider in split seconds of a team fight. Before I go into Storm's strengths and weaknesses, I did want to just bring up her movement. Storm is one of 2 heroes essentially that can freely float and move. The other one is Iron Man, which is a blessing and a curse. It is pretty cool to dodge a lot of things. I tend to rarely get hit by Namor alts, Moonlight alts, Squirrel Girl alts. If you're floating off the ground a little bit, you can kind of see where the ults can be placed. You can slightly move out of the way, you're fine. Especially pairing that with her tornado ability with her movement, you can essentially just kind of strafe out of the way by switching to that really quick and then switch back to damage when you need to. On the flip side of that, people do consider that free floating part of their kits as a weakness, because if you are floating around a little too high, and people that have good aim with hit scans will definitely capitalize on that. So you definitely want to make sure you're playing walls, you're playing behind your tanks, you're defending your healers so they can heal you when you are outputting damage. And overall, just being a team player, so you're providing your aura to your teammates, so you are getting kills quickly, or even if you're having an off game, you're still giving a benefit to your team, which is a win-win in my opinion. Going further in and taking a deep dive to Storm's movement, Storm doesn't have any get out of jail free cards. And what I mean by that is like any dashes, any blinks, besides her ult, no invulnerability. So positioning is really key with her. If you're new to these styles of games, I would definitely not recommend picking her up first unless you really, really want to play her, just because it's going to be a learning curve of how and where you're going to position at what times, when to move forward, when to move back. There's a lot of split-second decision-making in every single team fight and in every single comp versus every single comp you're against. So it can get a little overwhelming. I even have the same problem myself. That's why I'm not Grandmaster, but I am learning. And I tend to, which I did want to bring up in another point, is overcommit, where you move a little bit too far forward. Let's say you have a Strange in front of you, a Doctor Strange, and he's shielding, but he backs off. Sometimes I have the habit of moving forward a little bit just to keep hitting people with my passive lightning strikes for my weather control. to gain alt charge quicker, but sometimes it's better to just hug the wall and maybe miss a few strikes, so that way you don't die and then you have to respawn and you lose a team fight because of that. There's a lot of different mechanics depending on what comps you're against. When I'm playing Storm, the thing I usually want to do is float around my tanks or tank, depending on what your comp might look like, and your healers. Most of the time, they kind of move together in a formation or a ball. So there's always a consistency in that, so it's really easy to provide them value and to have them provide you value with their tanking and their healing. And then, especially if there's any divers, I'd say the main divers I see I won't say I'm low, but I'm about mid-rank with Plat, going right into Diamond. Not really any Iron Fist anymore, but definitely Spider-Man, Black Panther's starting to crawl up there. And then just the dive tanks, so like Thor, Captain America, Hulk. If we're not really pushing, I tend to save my weather control for when we get dove, and I can immediately pop it to start using my thunder as soon as they're on top of, honestly, usually the support. So that way the supports won't complain because they are getting help, and we can either kill or get rid of the tank and progress forward and move on with the game. I want to bring up my top 3 picks I do not like to verse against Storm, to possibly avoid them at all costs or ban them or switch. Not that I switch much, but if you are versing them, at least for season 1 right now, my biggest 3, and there could be more depending on how cracked they're playing the game, are going to be Spider-Man, which he doesn't see a lot of gameplay in my division, but the ones that do, they are really hard to hit. Even with your weather control, you're obviously going to be doing damage if you use your lightning on that, but they move very quickly, they mark you with their web, they combo you. Also, when he marks you with your web, you fall out of your float and you go to the ground, so you're easy combo food there, which is pretty annoying. A lot of stuns do that to Storm, so you want to try to avoid those, but it is pretty hard to avoid with Spider-Man, so he would definitely be my number 1. I would say number 2 and 3 would be, honestly, people I don't see too much this season because they did get heavily nerfed, but Hela and Hawkeye were pretty annoying. They are really, really good hit scans. Usually they could, 2 or 3 hit you depending on how accurate they are with their shots. But since we don't see a lot of them, at least I don't, I've been climbing very, very quickly, which is really nice. I would say honorable mentions and maybe the strategist role and the tank role or vanguard role would be Doctor Strange. He does have the ability to float. He can hit all of his shots and whip you in the air, which can be a little annoying if they know how to play the game. An annoying strategist I've honestly dealt with, which I don't see too much either, is Adam Warlock. He's definitely fallen out of the ranks, but I honestly think he's kind of a sleeper pick, and he's probably gonna get picked a lot more at the end of the season or next season. He's essentially a hit scan as well, and especially with his charge up shot, he can pretty much one shot you if he has the aim and you're not positioning correctly. I've seen cracked Adams just completely obliterate me where I didn't even want to play, so just something to look out for. Mainly hit scans, but those are my select fews that I'd prefer not to verse if I had the choice. So, as I had mentioned before, when using weather control and goddess boost, I'm usually using Thunder 90% of the time, but it is important to talk about the other 10% of the time when I am using Tornado, or I call it Wind. It looks like Wind, so her alt's Tornado, so I'm just gonna call that Wind. Most of the time I'm using the actual boost, like the goddess boost for it, is if I'm bringing my team to the point, or if I am running for my life so I don't die. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to switch to the weather control for wind to get away from like a team fight, or move someone out of a team fight with me, but I'm not usually using the goddess boost with it. I did read things online where it was recommended to like bait out anyone that wants to dive to slow them. I don't even think that's worth using the goddess boost for wind on, because the slow is good, but it's not great. So I think it's better off to just damage them. As long as you're moderately accurate and you're getting the extra damage from the thunder with goddess boost, it's really easy to burst any squishy divers or kind of defer any tankier divers to jump out and get away. There are a lot of instances where I switch to weather control wind in that 10% just to kind of slightly reposition if I'm in a bad spot. But other than that, I'm jumping right back to the thunder weather control setting. A big tip I will give when using, or when you are deciding to use your alt, is to not hold on to it forever. Easier said than done, but the way Storm is played, at least from my perspective, between charging your alt with your wind gust, with your piercing wind gusts, and then also your weather control with your lightning strikes, if you're playing her well, or at least even okay, you're getting alt really, really fast. So my best advice is to not wait too long to alt. Like, even if a support with a defensive alt like Luna, Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, they pop their alt, I consider that a good thing, because hey, you made them waste their alt. Maybe not waste, but they had to use their alt to counter yours. So you essentially want to try to build up your alt faster than them so you can keep the pace of the game rolling like that. In this last clip, our team fight's looking a little rough. We're getting pushed off. They have a Scarlet alt. They have Penny with her spiders. I initiate with my alt. I clean up a little bit here. It looks like I get Wanda. I get Jeff really low, but he's really nimble. I know he's going to heal there. It's going to be hard to kill him. I want my team to get in, so I get rid of the spiders. Looks like Jeff's alting the remaining member of my team except Namor, but we're able to track him down and pop that with Namor's help. So going into this clip, I have 5 health. I'm running away. I get to the shield. I get healed. I reposition with wind. I go back in with my alt. I should go for the healers, but I know Iron Man's gonna be easy pick. I go back into the healers. I do a bunch of damage. We kill Jeff, and everyone else is pretty weak. I switch back. I pop my thunder boost there for goddess boost, and I start doing a shit ton of damage. And my team helps me clean it up with the extra provided damage with the boost as well. There's a big team fight going on. I pop my goddess boost, and that immediately hits, which kills the Loki. I should have probably just not focused the clone there, and also I shouldn't have probably focused the Punisher there, but I did. I was kind of out of range, so I wasn't even really hitting him with my boost either, but no worries, the team cleans it up. Usually if you see Wanda, you want to pop her right away, so I focus that and I pop her right away. Out of the fight, but I'm in a decent spot. I get my alt, but I'm waiting for the Invisible Woman alt to go down. After that, I initiate. I'm trying to get the healers as quickly as I can. I get Invisible Woman, and I know Cloak and Dagger went over here, so I track them down. I pop my goddess boost. I pop my other ability to try to kill her instantly. I don't wait for my healers. I just pick up the health pack. It's good to know where those are so you don't have to depend on the healers 24/7. And after that, we clean up the rest of the fight. It's really good to make replays of your gameplay to honestly learn from and also teach from. So I have been playing and recording so that way I can kind of provide examples for not only you guys watching, but also myself to learn from. And with that, I wrap up the video. Obviously, there is a lot more that goes into everything with very, very minute detail. That's kind of hard to explain in a short video, But the best way to learn is, besides watching videos like this, is maybe watching full gameplays and also getting into the gameplay yourself, so you can have a better idea of how things work and how you like playing the character. The way I play, I really like. I still have a lot to learn, but I plan on learning that, hopefully taking my skills up to Grandmaster. Other than that, if anyone has any input or comments to throw in and provide, I greatly appreciate them, since I don't really make videos like this, and this is kind of my first time doing that. I hope you really enjoy, and I hope with my tips you can storm the ranks, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.